So if you've watched my channel for a while now, you know that back in the day, I used to explore abandoned buildings a lot. I was really into it at one point in my life. I'd say from like the ages of like 16 to like 19. I was really into just like finding abandoned buildings in my city and exploring them. Something about like seeing a building all decayed and old and, you know, falling apart. For some reason, it interested me. Honestly, it still does. I just don't do it as much now because if I get caught, the cops are probably gonna be like, bro, you're in your 20s. Like, you probably shouldn't be doing this. We're gonna give you a trespassing charge. So I tend to avoid it. But, you know, sometimes if I find a building that's like, you know, really abandoned and no one really looks after it, like no security or anything, sometimes I'll check it out. But yeah, back in the day, I was really into that. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen those old videos. Well, there's a couple story times from that era that I haven't told yet. And this one in specific is one of the craziest. And also, it's kind of nice because it's about me not being stupid for once. What happened in this story time isn't nice, obviously. But, you know, it was nice that for once I wasn't the one screwing up. But I'm going to tell you about it today. So today's story time all takes place back when I was 17 years old. Now at this point, my YouTube channel was blowing up. It had become my full-time career. I wasn't in school anymore. Life was good. Life was great. I was hanging out with my friends like every day. We were exploring, having a good time, you know, checking out abandoned places, just having fun, man, being kids, right? And there was this one building in specific in my hometown that I always wanted to go to. And today was the day that we were going to finally go to it. Now, this building was an abandoned factory. I don't know what they made in this factory back in the day because it'd been abandoned for a very long time, but I know that it was a big-ass building, and I was very excited to go check it out. And from what I was told around the community of like people that I know that have been there, they all told me that like there was no security. It was a very safe place to go explore, and I was excited because it was huge, right? So yeah, on this day at about 4:30, 5 p.m., my friend came to my house. Well, I should say friends. It was a car full of people. They picked me up. And we started going to this building. Now, upon arriving there, I realized very quickly this place was a lot bigger than I anticipated. I knew it was going to be big, but this place was huge. And I wish I fucking filmed it, man. This whole story would be so much better if I had footage with it. But next time, if I ever go back, I promise I'll film it. But yeah, we were at this building, we get there, and it's huge. And it wasn't even just one building, actually. So there was the main building, which was like the big 3-story factory building. Then there was a little building to the right of it. And I don't know what it was used for back in the day, but it was very small, and it was like a little 2-floor building, very small. I don't know what it was, but then to the right, like pretty far away, there was a big smokestack that connected to the main building. I'm assuming it had something to do with, you know, the fact that it was a factory. But yeah, huge, cool place, right? So we decided as a group to split up, which like if you've ever seen a movie, splitting up when you're in a group is never a good idea. But yeah, there was 5 of us. We decided that 2 of us were going to go into the small building, and then 3 of us were going to go into the factory big building, explore it, and then we'd all meet up at the end and kind of show each other the coolest parts of each since we had been in there and already went through it, right? Oh, and then after that, we were going to go check out the big smokestack part of the building. So yeah, that was the plan, right? So we started with the big factory building. Me and my 2 friends, and the other 2 went to the small one. And everything was good. Everything was great. It was a big-ass building, really cool, abandoned, creepy, you know, everything you would expect from an abandoned building, right? Nothing really too crazy. And yeah, we explored the basement, then we explored the first floor, the second, the third, and then finally, the last part of the exploration of this big building was the roof. And we got up there. It was really cool, had a sweet view of the city. I'm not a fan of heights, so I didn't really like being up here that much, but, you know, it was a part of the journey, so I just stuck with it because my friends wanted to see it. And then my one friend, we'll just call this friend Cody, okay? Cody was the one that always had to take things too far. Cody goes, yo, Austin, get a photo of me. And he proceeds to stand up on the ledge of this roof over the edge, right? Now, I just want to like make this very clear. This ledge that he was standing on was very thin. There wasn't a lot of room to put your feet. It had rained earlier, so it was kind of wet. Like, it was just a bunch of factors at play that made me think this is a fucking terrible idea. So I told Cody, I'm like, yo, you should step down from there. Like, that's not good. Don't do that. And he starts calling me a pussy. He's like, bro, I've done this shit a million times at other buildings. Like, I'm good. Trust me. I have good balance. I took gymnastics my whole life. I know what I'm doing, right? He's just basically telling me that I'm, you know, worrying over nothing. And even my other homie looked at me like, yo, Cody's fucking stupid for that. But anyway, I go to take the photo, right? Because the faster I take this fucking photo, the faster Cody will step down and we can leave and, you know, he'll be safe and not able to fall off a building, right? So I'm going to take the picture, and right as I'm about to hit the button to take the fucking photo, Cody goes, hold on, I have a better pose. And he goes to take a step. He He was trying to turn around so his back was facing the camera and he was outlooking the city, but he stepped incorrectly and he slipped. And it was kind of crazy because when he slipped, he like tried to catch his balance for a second and he was like waving his arms around and shit, like trying to, not fall over the edge. And it was like we were watching it happen in slow motion. And unfortunately, Cody lost the battle. He lost his balance and he slipped over the edge. And I remember he yelled, he goes, "Fuck!" And me and my friend looked at each other like, "Oh shit!" And my friend starts taking off towards the edge of the building to watch Cody fall and see if he, and me, I start booking it down the stairs as fast as I can to get to the bottom of the building while simultaneously pulling up on my phone and dialing 911 and calling an ambulance because I didn't know what condition I was about to see Cody in. I didn't know if he was going to be conscious, alive, if he was going to have a couple broken bones. I knew he was going to have something broken. He fell off a fucking roof of a factory. This is not the kind of fall that like you walk away from unscathed. Like he was going to have serious injuries 99.9%, right? Like that was the chance. So I'm running down these stairs. I'm on the phone with the cops telling them like, "Hey, my friend just fell off a building. Like I'm running down the stairs now. Like please get here. Here's the address." And they're asking me all these questions, right? And I get to the bottom of the stairs. I run outside and I see Cody laying flat on the ground, like hyperventilating. He looked like he was in bad shape. But the good news was he was breathing and he was conscious. So I ran up to him and I was like, "Yo, there's an ambulance on the way. Like, what's hurting, man? Like, what'd you fall on?" Because I didn't see him fall. And my friend's yelling above me from the roof up there. He's like, "Yo, is he good?" And I look up and I'm like, "What do you think? He's not good." So I look back down and I'm like, "Cody, what'd you land on? I didn't see you fall. Like, what'd you land on?" And he can barely talk. He's like, my legs. And he's pointing to his legs and he's like grabbing them and he's in pain, right? Now, obviously, I'm sure him landing on his legs really hurt and I'm sure he had multiple broken bones. But on the other hand, I'm glad that he did, because if he would have landed on his head, I wouldn't be talking to Cody. Cody probably would have been on the other side by now. Yeah, I don't want to sound dark here, but that's just the truth. So I just sit with him, and my other friend runs down from the roof so like he can be there with him, and then my other friends came from the smaller buildings, we called them, and we're all just surrounding Cody, like telling him he's going to be okay, that he was a champion, that we couldn't believe that he was like in the shape that he was after taking a fall that high. And just like trying to encourage him, because we all know how shitty he must have felt. But the ambulance got there. They evaluated him. They put him on a stretcher. We had told them what happened. And next thing we know, we're on the way to the hospital. I didn't ride with them in the ambulance. They rode separately. We all drove there. And we got there. Forgot to mention on the way there, we called Cody's family because obviously they needed to know. So before we knew it, his mom and his dad were there as well, and his sister. And they had to put Cody into like emergency surgery. So we were just waiting for hours and just didn't hear anything for the longest time. And it got to the point where his family, Cody's family, like his mom and dad, told us to leave. They were like, "Guys, this could be an all-night thing. Like, just go home. We'll call you as soon as we know something." And we're like, "Are you sure?" And they were like, "Yeah." So we left and we just like hung out for a little bit. Like we got some food at some diner. And after that, we all just went home. Like we all just got, dropped off and I was just in my house, like waiting to hear something. I stayed up the whole night pretty much. I did not sleep. And I got a text at about 6 a.m. from Cody's mom telling me that he was awake and responsive and talking to them, but he was obviously injured. Now after this, I called her and she gave me a rundown of like his injuries. I don't remember every single one because I'm not going to lie. There was a lot. Okay. Cody fucked up a lot of shit. All right. But I remember his legs were fucked. He broke his legs. I believe a part of his spine was fractured and he was going to potentially have nerve damage in some areas. And he was going to have to be in a wheelchair. They didn't know how long. It could either be permanent or, until he was completed with physical therapy and they could maybe get his legs to work again. But it was fucked, man. Like he was very injured. But the good news was, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying earlier, because he landed the way he did, he didn't, smash his head. He was intact, like mentally. He could eat on his own. He could breathe on his own. He was injured very badly, but not to the point where we lost Cody. You know what I mean? We were all very happy that he was alive and, conscious and speaking. And they even put him on the phone later on that day. He couldn't talk when I talked to his mom, but later on that day, they called me and put him on the phone. And I got to talk to him and we were cracking jokes and shit. He was pretty messed up on the pain meds, but he was doing okay, right? Now, I don't remember the exact amount of time it took for him to recover, but he made a pretty much full recovery. He still has like nerve issues, like in his back, he's told me about. And like there's certain areas where he can't really feel shit. But for the most part, he is recovered. He was in a wheelchair for a super long time. Not sure how long specifically, but it was over half a year. I remember that. But through like the incredible physical therapist that he had, he was able to like make a recovery. So he can walk, he can run, he can swim, he can work out and stuff. Like he is as recovered as you can be after taking a fall off of a building. And yeah, man, I just think about this all the time and just how lucky he got. A funny little detail I forgot to leave out is the first time I hung out with Cody after this had happened, like a couple weeks later, I went to his house to see him. One of the first things he said to me when we were sitting on the couch was, "Bro, you were right. That was a stupid idea." And we just started laughing our asses off. And I'm like, bro, at least you're still here with us. That's all that matters. But yeah, man, that is the story of how a friend of ours fell off a building while we were exploring it. Yeah, man, crazy. Obviously, moral of the story is here, do not do what Cody did. Don't do what any of us were doing, man. Stay away from the creepy abandoned buildings, because those things are dangerous. That's all I gotta say. Let my stupid mistakes entertain you, but don't go and repeat them. I hope you guys enjoyed the story time, though. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below, and subscribe if you're new. I will see you all later. Peace. Loaded, I be whipping foreign cars. Always stay devoted, mama knew I'd be a star. Now I'm steady flowing, feeling like I'm high as Mars. I'ma keep on going, I'ma always raise the bar. Told me I cannot do it, looking at them all losing. So today's story time is definitely one of my favorites ever. Like, actually one of my favorites to tell. Whenever I tell this to a friend, they crack up. Whenever I tell it to like anybody, they just love it. And I haven't told it on my channel yet, just because I thought it was so good, I wanted to save it. And it's been years, so I thought, you know what, it's time. Now, throughout the years, I've talked about, people that I've met that are pretty stupid, all right? And I've talked about myself being pretty stupid. But this person I'm about to talk about today might take the cake, okay? He might be #1 brainless man ever. So I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's get into it. So today's story time all starts off back in 2018. Now around this time, I was living a pretty simple, pretty boring life. I was in my hometown in New York. I was in my own apartment. I just moved back from LA kind of recently. And I was mainly just spending every day getting up out of bed, making videos, playing games, and then ordering food and sitting inside all night. I wasn't really doing anything around this time. This was around the time that a lot of my friends were getting actual jobs and like going to college and stuff. So nobody was really around to do anything. So I kind of just sat inside and I was bored most days, right? Now this all starts off like any other day back then. I had just finished working on a YouTube video. I was laying in my bedroom, just on my bed, scrolling Twitter, just doing nothing, right? And around this time, I also wasn't smoking. I had not smoked weed or like hit a vape or anything in a very long time, for mainly 2 reasons. 1, it just gave me a bunch of anxiety. And 2, I didn't have anyone to buy it from. Around this time, this was right before New York actually started to like kind of legalize it and make it more easy to get. So it was still kind of hard to find, right? So I was just sitting in my room, not really doing much, right? And I kind of had the idea / like urge to smoke. I was like, I'm kind of in the mood to smoke some weed. I haven't smoked weed in a long time, and I'm really bored and I have nothing to do tonight, and I'm just going to be watching Netflix. Maybe I should spice my night up a little bit and get some weed. So I started texting friends of mine who I know smoked, and I was like, hey man, can I get your plug? Like, I don't have anybody. And within like 2 text messages, one of my friends sent me his plug and was like, yeah man, he's super chill, super good dude, like, you'll love this dude. So I saved the dude's number, I texted him, I was like, hey man, my name's Austin, I'm friends with blank, wondering if I could get some weed. And he's like, yeah man, for sure, what do you want? I told him an 1/8, and he was like, bet, can you come to my house? I was like, sure. So he gave me his address, I went to his house, I got there. Now I assumed I was going to go into his house, buy it, and then leave. But apparently he had roommates that didn't know he sold weed for a living, and he didn't want them to find out. So after arriving to his house, he told me to get into his car and that it was unlocked in the driveway. And it was a Hyundai Elantra. It was sitting in his driveway, just on. It was just turned on, the keys were in. Just there. He's lucky I'm a good person because some other people would just steal that shit. But yeah, I got into his car, and a few minutes later, I see him come out of the house. He comes down the driveway, gets into his car in the driver's seat, and he opens up the glove compartment and pulls out this 1/8 and hands it to me. So he had it like in the car ready, which was kind of weird. But anyway, yeah, he hands it to me, and he's like, here you go. And I was like, thank you, man, for real. Like, you came through. I appreciate it. He's like, yeah, man, no problem. Anytime. Like, you got my number. I was like, thank you. And then he goes, did you drive here? I was like, nah, actually, I Ubered. Because at the time, I didn't have a car. I'd moved back from LA kind of recently, didn't buy a car yet. So I Ubered there, right? And he's like, bro, you need a ride home? And I was like, nah, man, it's all good. I'll just get another Uber. Because I didn't want to like inconvenience this dude, right, that I just met. He goes, nah, bro, I got you. I was like, oh, shit, man. Well, thank you. I appreciate it. He's like, yeah, where you live at? I gave him my address. He puts it into his phone. He's like, dude, you're like down the road. That's not far at all. I'm like, I totally got you. I'm like, thank you, bro. So next thing I know, he's putting the car in reverse and we start going backwards down the driveway and we're leaving, right? And then he slams on the brake and he's like, shit, I forgot something. You care if I run inside real quick and grab my Gatorade? I'm like, go for it, bro. All good. Like, dude really wanted that Gatorade. But here's the part where the story time gets a little interesting, okay? And by a little, I mean very interesting. This dude opens the door of the driver's side, starts getting out of the car, but doesn't put the car in park first. So this car is still in reverse, and we are on a very steep driveway that is very long and steep, aka he starts getting out the car, and the car starts rolling because this fucking dude took his foot off the brake and didn't put it in park. So this car starts rolling down this steep driveway with me inside of it. So I start yelling at him because he doesn't realize it. He's turned around, like walking the other direction. I'm like, yo, your car. And he turns around and he sees it rolling away from him. He's like, oh, fuck. And he starts running towards it, right? But at this point, it was too late. The car had already picked up enough momentum to be rolling faster than he could run. Because like I said, dude, this driveway was fucking steep and it was long. It was one of the longest, steepest driveways I've ever fucking seen. And of course, I just had to be the person inside of the car that was rolling down it, right? Now, at this point, I have two choices. I jump out and I roll down the driveway and get a little banged up and, hope that I don't get that hurt. Or I just stay inside the car and keep rolling with it. Now, obviously, I'm opening that fucking door. But here's the problem. On the right-hand side, where I was going to be opening my door, there was a, gate. He had, a little gated entryway, and it was, made of brick and stuff where the gate attached to it. And if I open my door and try and jump out, I'm going to hit the door on it and probably break the door clean off. And also, if I jump out not quick enough, I'm going to hit this giant brick wall and probably break every bone in my fucking body. So I just decided to wait until I'm past this, wall and hope for the best, right? Now, as soon as we get past that wall and the car is rolling even faster now, it's to the point where I'm almost in the street in this thing, right? It's about to be in the street. And a truck is coming. A fucking, Ford F-150 is coming down the neighborhood road going 30 miles an hour, maybe even 40. And I'm just sitting there bracing with my eyes closed that this truck is about to just T-bone me, right? And I close my eyes and I hear it whiz by, just before the car hit the street. And then his car hit the street. And now I'm rolling in the street, and I go to open the door and roll out, which I did. I rolled out into the street and gashed up my knees and my arms pretty bad just because I was wearing shorts and a t-shirt. But I was okay for the most part. And his car proceeds to roll up the other driveway, the neighbor's driveway across the street. And they also had a really steep driveway. So it rolled all the way up, right? And it lost all of its speed and momentum. And it stopped just before it hit their garage. I think it might have tapped it a little bit, but at that point, the dude was able to catch up to it before it rolled any further, and he was able to get into it and stop it and put it in park, right? And then he sat in his neighbor's driveway in park for 30 seconds, just breathing and having a panic attack, then put it back in drive, drove it through the street, up his driveway, back to where it was and parked it. And then he got out and ran over to me and was like, yo, are you good? And I was like, I'm fine, bro. I'm fine. He's like, dude, I am so fucking sorry. I did not realize I didn't put the car in park. I'm like, bro, it's fine. I'm just happy that truck didn't hit me. I'm good. And he's like, do you still need a ride? And I can't lie, bro. At this point, I honestly just wanted to go home alone, take an Uber or something. Because if this motherfucker forgot to put his car in park before getting out of it on a steep hill, who knows what else he'll forget to do, right? So I told him, you know what, man? Don't even worry about it. I think I'm just calling Uber or something. He's like, all right, man, I'm sorry. I was like, no, dude, you're good. You're good. And honestly, bro, I didn't even want to ride home with this dude to begin with before all this happened because I didn't really know him that well, right? I was just going to Uber home. So after this happened, I was like, yeah, I'm definitely not riding home with this dude. But he did apologize a lot, and he did seem genuinely sorry. It's not like he did it on purpose. It was just a stupid accident. I mean, it could have been a deadly one, but still, he did do it on accident. And after he apologized a bunch, before I left, right before my Uber got there, he gave me another eighth for free. He's like, bro, just take some more weed. Like, I'm so sorry. And I was like, oh, thank you, man. I appreciate it. So in the end, got some free weed out of it. Almost died, but got some free weed out of it, which is cool, I guess. And yeah, I Ubered home and smoked a bit and just chilled and tried to relax after the chaos that was that day. Now you're probably wondering, Austin, did you keep buying from that dude? Did you ever see him again? I did. I did see him again many times after this. I continued to buy weed from him throughout that whole year pretty much. So I saw him quite a bit, and he was always like really, really funny about it. We'd always like joke about it. And it became a thing of the past very quickly. Like, we learned to laugh about it pretty soon after. I'm not gonna lie, I still didn't ride in his car, like, ever. But yeah, we laughed about it quite a bit. But yeah, guys, there is a moral to this story. If you're ever getting out of a car and you're the driver, or your friend's the driver, make sure they put it in park before taking their foot off the brake and leaving you rolling to your death potentially. And if you're driving, make sure you put it in park. I'm not gonna lie though, I think most of you are a lot smarter than this plug was, so yeah, I'm sure you don't even need to be told that, but just being safe. But yeah, guys, that's the story of the time my plug almost killed me over a fucking Gatorade because he wanted his drink and he forgot to put his car in park. So yeah, man, pretty crazy shit. I hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below. And subscribe if you're new. I will see you guys all later. Peace.
I know your place, have bitches pull up on me. I got 2 switches, 20 gauge rounds. Hit you up like it's nutrition. I've risen, everything came to fruition. Stop the jealous talking on your girls, mine I might hit it. I heard my name is in your mouth, yeah, I really doubt you want me talking back, cause I could really air it out. Remember when I caught your girlfriend cheating at my...
Okay, so before this video starts, just want to say, I'm streaming shortly after this video goes up, so if you're watching this in the first couple hours of this going up, come check it out. First link in the description. I'm trying to go live more often on my Twitch. Come hang. I got face cam on. We're probably playing Roblox or something, who knows, but come hang. Anyway, today's story time is one of those stories that really just takes me back. It really reminds me of the early days on this YouTube channel because of how unbelievably cringy and embarrassing and kind of hilarious it is. Luckily, this isn't one of those story times where I'm the one embarrassing myself, but it's still pretty bad, and it definitely gives me secondhand embarrassment to talk about. So I hope you enjoy it. Also, this story time is definitely, not for the faint of heart. So if you're easily grossed out, or, like younger than the average viewer on this channel is, this is your sign that you might need to head out. But otherwise, enjoy this messed up story. I'll probably have to censor some words just because I don't want to get, age restricted, but you'll get the gist, okay? So today's story time all starts off back when I was 16 years old. Now, around this time, I was doing YouTube. My YouTube channel hadn't blown up the way that it, was about to, but I was still doing pretty good at the time, and things were, looking up for me. And life was good, man. I was kind of like still going to school, but in the process of getting out, I had a lot of free time around this time because, most of my friends were in school and I was like on and off with it. So I spent most of my days just making videos or streaming or hanging out with friends when I could. And yeah, this all starts off like any other day back then. It was actually the weekend. It was a Saturday morning. I had just woken up at like noon. It was like 12:30 or something. Got up out of bed, took a shower, got ready for my day. And I knew on this day that I wanted to do something. I didn't want to just sit inside all day and, rot away on the computer or like play games. I kind of wanted to get out of the house and do something with some friends. So I started hitting up some people that I hung out with a lot around this time. I texted my 2 best friends at the time, Justin and Scott. I texted both of them. I was like, yo, let's link up today. Like, let's just go to the mall, the 3 of us or something. And Scott was unfortunately busy, but Justin wasn't. So at least I had somebody to hang out with on this day, right? And I was going to be spending my weekend completely alone and bored. So that's what I did. I went to the mall like an hour later. I told my mom I was going there. I walked over because it was a very short walk. And I met Justin there at the food court. We hung out there for about an hour or 2 until we got pretty bored. And then Justin asked me if I wanted to go back to his house and spend the night. To which I said, sure, why not? Let me just call my mom and let her know. So I called her and I was like, hey, I'm going to spend the night at Justin's. Is that cool? And she was like, yeah, for sure. Do you need anything from the house? And I was like, yeah, actually, I don't have any clothes or like my phone charger or anything. Could you bring me that stuff? She's like, yeah, sure. So my mom packed my stuff into a backpack, my clothes, my charger. I think she even threw my laptop in there. And then she came to the mall and dropped it off to me. And while she was there dropping off my bag, she asked us if we needed a ride back to Justin's house, which would honestly be really helpful because he lived like 2 or 3 miles away and walking back would have sucked. So we said sure. And my mom took us over to Justin's house and dropped us off. And that was it, right? Me and Justin were just at his house playing some video games. It was nearing dinner time. Justin's mom was making dinner for us, and it was, turning out to be a pretty good night, right? Well, around like 7 or 8 p.m., Justin called up another friend. We'll just call this dude Morgan, okay? Morgan was somebody who I didn't know very well. I had only met him like one other time other than this time, and he was a friend of Justin's because they lived in the same neighborhood. So I didn't know him that well. I didn't really have any opinions about him because I didn't know him, right? So I didn't really care that Justin was inviting him over. I thought like, cool, man, another person, like the more the better. It'll be fun. So yeah, after Justin calls Morgan and invites him over, Morgan showed up like 10 minutes later because he literally lived like 2 or 3 houses down. And upon him arriving, he said what up to us, and he just kind of, jumped right into playing a game with us. We were playing Skate together, just passing off the controller. And yeah, it was cool. Honestly, I'd say most of the night was very cool, and Morgan seemed like a really cool dude who I could easily be friends with, right? So I was really glad Justin invited him. That was until later on in the night, when it was bedtime. This is when I realized that I don't ever want to see Morgan again. So it starts getting pretty late, right? It's probably about 1 or 2 in the morning. We're in Justin's basement, playing Skate still. Justin's parents had gone to bed. It was just us awake. We're just like snacking on junk food, playing games, talking shit, having fun, right? Like just being kids, just having a good night. And I start getting pretty tired, and so does Justin, and so does Morgan. So we decide to throw on a movie. Figured that'd be a better idea than just playing video games because we're all pretty tired and just didn't want to play anything anymore. So Justin threw on the movie 8 Mile, which is a great movie. If you haven't seen it, it's good. It's about Eminem. I'm sure you all know who he is, okay? If you don't, what fucking rock do you live under? But yeah, it's a great movie, and it was like my second time seeing it, so I was stoked to watch it again, whatever. And within like 10 minutes of that shit starting, I fell right asleep. I was knocked out. Now, Justin and Morgan ended up staying up a lot later than I did. I ended up waking up like 40 to 50 minutes later because I had to pee, and they were still up watching the movie. So I just went to the bathroom quick, came back, laid down, fell right back asleep. And then I woke up like, I'd say maybe 2 hours later to something that nobody should ever have to wake up to. And I wouldn't wish this on my worst enemy. So, like I said, I woke up probably like 2 hours later, right? All the lights were off. The TV was just on a pause screen. It was paused at the end of the movie. And I looked to my right because I'm trying to grab my water bottle and take a sip because I'm thirsty. And I see Justin knocked out next to me on the couch cushions on the ground. And I hear this sound behind me. And I don't even want to try and imitate it because it's disgusting. But I hear this really, really odd sound. And I can't quite put my finger on what it is, right? But it's coming from right behind me. And I know that someone's making that sound. It's not coming from the basement, like the pipes on the ceiling. Like it's not the water going through the pipes. It's not like old basement sound. It's someone doing it, right? And I figure, okay, it's got to be Morgan, right? Like Morgan's behind me. He's probably still awake, probably eating something or drinking something. Like who knows, right? So I turn my head around because Morgan is literally like 2 feet behind me on the couch. He's above me on the couch. Me and Justin were on the floor. And yeah, Morgan was behind my head on the couch. So I turned my head around to see what that sound is and to see what Morgan's doing because clearly he was still awake if I heard a noise behind me. And I proceed to see, to this day, one of the most disturbing things. I see Morgan laying flat on the couch. What's the word I'm looking for here? Pleasuring himself, okay? Very inappropriately, all right? If you're catching my drift. With a toy, not like a children's toy, but like an adult toy. It rhymes with Akit Ussi. Just put a P in front of those words, and I think you know what I'm talking about. But this dude's just going for it. Blanket off, not covering himself up, just right behind me and Justin. Now, obviously, I said something because this is gross. I was like, yo, what the fuck? And he immediately grabs the blanket and like throws it over himself to cover himself up. He's like, oh, I didn't know you were awake. And I was like, Morgan, what the fuck? And he's like, what? I'm like, Morgan, what the fuck, dude? Real quick, before I continue, keep in mind, we were in Justin's basement, which was a very big basement, right? And there was multiple rooms. There was a bathroom down there. There was like a guest room. He could have went in any of those rooms and been alone and shut the door and locked it. And no one would have known and no one would have judged him. But no, he decided to bring this fucking pocket thing to Justin's house and then use it while we were asleep 2 feet in front of him. Now, I forgot to mention, he had his phone in his other hand, okay? So, like, he was watching something. It's not like he was doing this to to me and Justin sleeping. That would be fucking diabolical, and I would have probably punched him in the face. But there was many other places he could have gone for this, right? So after I say, Morgan, what the fuck, for like the third time, I was like, Morgan, you do understand that there is a bathroom down here, a guest room, there's also a bathroom upstairs. What the fuck makes you think it's a good idea to do that in the same room as us, bro? Like, that's awful. He's like, bro, I didn't think anyone was awake. I'm like, I don't give a shit if we're sleeping. You don't do that in the same room as somebody. That's fucking nasty. And right after I say this, Justin wakes up because I'm like raising my voice. And he wakes up and he's like, what the fuck's going on? I'm like, Justin, Morgan was just attacking his meat while we were sleeping right next to us. And Justin's like, Morgan, are you fucking serious? And Morgan's like, I'm sorry. And Justin goes, dude, put your stuff in your bag and leave. Go home, like right now. And Morgan's like, dude, it's the middle of the night. I'm not walking home right now. And Justin's like, bro, you live a 2-minute walk away. I'll watch you. I'll make sure you get home. Just leave. And Morgan's like, really, bro? Like, you guys are really going to overreact like this? And I'm like, dude, overreact? I'm fucking underreacting right now. Get out of here. And Morgan proceeds to let out this like giant sigh, like this annoyed sigh. And he proceeds to start putting his pants on, right? And while he's doing that, in the other hand, he has the toy, and Justin sees it. Because Justin didn't know that's what Morgan was using, because I didn't say it, and neither did Morgan, and he had it under the blanket. But Justin sees it in Morgan's hand, and he goes, what the fuck is that thing? And he points to it, he looks at me, and I go, that's what Morgan was using. He goes, Morgan, what the fuck is that? And Morgan goes, what? And Justin's like, dude, you brought that to my house? You keep that in your bag? You bring that to sleepovers? What the fuck is wrong with you? And Morgan goes, if you could afford one, you'd have one too. And Justin goes, I wouldn't bring it to people's fucking houses and use it. And I was like, Morgan, do you put that in your carry-on when you get on a plane? Do you travel with it? And Morgan's like, fuck you guys. And Justin's like, that's some serial killer ass shit, dude. Get out of here. And Morgan proceeds to do the walk of shame up the stairs and out the front door. And we watched him leave and go back to his house. He made it back safe. He was okay. And for a minute there, I felt kind of bad, right? I was like, oh, maybe we were too hard on him. We kind of gave him a lot of shit. But then I realized, like, bro, that is a line you should never cross, okay? Listen, I understand what it's like to be a teenager, okay? Because I was a teenager. But, like, when you get the urge to do some shit like that, you do it in private. You don't do it in the same room as your friends, let alone uncovered, literally 2 feet behind them. If he was an adult, he would go to jail for that. Now, you're probably wondering, what happened to Morgan? You ever see him again? I actually did see him again. I saw him out in public like a few months later. I saw him at the store while I was grocery shopping with my mom, and we both like noticed each other and kind of like gave each other like a head nod, like a hello nod, but we didn't talk or anything. Justin actually continued to hang out with him. It took him a couple months to do that again because Justin was pretty mad at him, but they did hang out again in the future. Me personally, I didn't hang out with him after this, solely just because I didn't know him that well to begin with. And when you factor in what happened, being one of the first times I ever hung out with him, I just didn't really see myself kicking it with him in the future. So yeah, I kind of just avoided hanging out with him from that point forward. It's not like me and Morgan had that many opportunities to hang out anyway. Like, we were just mutuals through Justin, so I probably wasn't going to hang out with him that much to begin with anyway. But yeah, him and Justin actually remained friends for years to come. I still keep up with Justin on like a bunch of my social medias, and him and Morgan are still cool, and they still hang out. And honestly, I'm sure nowadays Morgan's probably a much different individual than he was, you know, all the way back then. I'm sure he's done some growing up and probably isn't nearly as stupid. But yeah, guys, that's the end of the story. Moral of the story is, don't do what Morgan did under any circumstances. Do not do what Morgan did in this story. Yeah. But I hope you guys enjoyed this story time. Definitely a crazy one. Definitely a funny one. All around ridiculous one. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below. And subscribe if you're new. I will see you all later. Peace.
Your place, bad bitches, pull up on me, I got 2 switches, 20 gauge rounds, hit you up like it's nutrition, I've risen, everything came to fruition, stop the jealous talking on your girls, mine I might hit it, I heard my name is in your mouth, yeah I really doubt, you want me talking back cause I could really air it out, remember when I...
So, you know, throughout the last like 10 years I've had this channel, I've talked about a lot of relationships on this channel. Some of them, you know, weren't filled with that much drama. Some of them were. I'm sure some of you have seen those story times before. But this one I'm about to tell you, it's like a new level of stabbed in the back. Yeah, I'm excited to talk about it. I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's get into it. Also, check out my new song, first link in the description. New album soon. So this story time takes place back in 2016. I'm pretty sure the video I uploaded before this one also took place in 2016. So in 2016, I was still technically living with my mom because I wasn't 18 yet. I was actually just about to turn 18 in this story time. And I was kind of getting ready to move. Now, honestly, I really liked living at my mom's house, and sometimes I miss it, you know? Like, I just lived in the basement, like a little basement dweller, but it was awesome because I had my privacy down there. I could be as loud as I wanted. I could scream at my monitor at all hours of the night when I was playing COD or CSGO, and, you know, no one really cared. And I could also make my videos, which was awesome. Now, around this time in 2016, I started to make pretty decent money on YouTube. And I had my own bank account, and I had, you know, like most of my money going in there. But also around this time, I wanted to buy a new PC because my PC was getting old and, you know, like kind of being weird. So I found one from a seller in my hometown. This dude on like Facebook or something was selling it, and it was like $2,000, and it was a really nice computer, but he only wanted cash for it. So I went to the bank, I pulled out $2,000 cash, and then I went home, I messaged the guy, and turns out he already sold the fucking thing. So now, around this time, I had $2,000 cash, and the thing I was going to buy with that $2,000 was sold, right? Now, I could have just went and put the money back in my bank account, but I decided, you know what? Like, I'm just going to keep it in my room, in my basement, right? Around this time, I actually wanted to buy, like, a safe to keep stuff in anyway, like valuables. So I went out to the store, I bought this safe for like, I don't know, $60 or something. And it was actually pretty good for that price. And I put the safe in my basement, and I put the $2,000 cash in there, and then I hid the key in my ceiling. There was like an opening in the ceiling panel. I put the key up there. So now I had this nice little safe under my desk that had my money in there and some other important stuff that I put in there later on, like, you know, like important documents, birth certificate, that kind of stuff, right? So yeah, after that, a couple months went by, and life was pretty good. I just started dating this new girl. My YouTube channel was still doing its thing. Everything was great, right? And this girl that I was dating, I was really getting close with her, right? And we got to that point in our relationship where, like, she started to sleep over all the time, and vice versa. Like, I go to her house and stuff. And one night, she was at my house. She was sleeping over. It was like 2 a.m. We're both just laying on my bed, watching some TV, when she looks at my safe under my desk, and she goes, "What do you got in there?" And I was like, "Do you want to see?" Because I thought I could trust her, right? Like, you know, we were getting pretty close, and I figured, you know, it's just some bullshit documents and some money, like probably what she already expects anyway. And she's like, "Sure." So I grabbed the key, and that was my mistake. I grabbed the key in front of her. I should have had her close her eyes or turn around or something so I could grab the key and she wouldn't know where I hid it. But I trusted her so much that I thought, oh, like, it doesn't matter if she knows where the key is. She won't steal from me. So I grabbed the key from the top of the ceiling. I opened the safe. I show her what's inside. And she literally, like, didn't have any reaction. She was like, "Oh, yeah, I figured it was just some money or something." And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "How much is in there?" And I was like, $2K. And she was like, "Oh, cool. Like, why? Why do you have money under your desk like that?" And I told her what happened. I was like, "Oh, I was going to buy this PC with it, but then it got sold, and I didn't feel like going back to the bank, so I just decided I needed a safe anyway. I'd put it in there." And she was like, "Yeah, makes sense." Now, after this, we both just, you know, laid back down, and within like an hour, I fell asleep. I was tired, all right? I fell asleep first, which usually doesn't happen. Usually, I'm last asleep, but yeah, in this instance, I was not. And I woke up about an hour and a half later to a very strange sound. You know when you're dreaming, and in your dream you start to hear something in real life, and it kind of like is in your dream, and then you realize you're dreaming, and that sound is from, you know, your room, and you wake up? That's what happened. I heard this really weird sound of like a chair creaking, right? It sounded like a chair was making noise. And in my dream, I heard that sound, and at first I just thought it was in my dream, right? And then all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, I'm asleep. This is a dream. That's in real life. And I wake up immediately, right? And I see what's making that sound. It's my girlfriend on my chair, like my office chair, standing up, which is really dangerous, by the way. You never stand on a chair with wheels. That's stupid because you could fall and break your neck. But she's standing on my office chair, reaching up and moving the ceiling panel to grab my key for my safe. And she's so locked in on doing that she doesn't realize that I just woke up and I'm watching her. So I don't say anything, right? I just let her keep doing what she's doing because at first I wanted to give her the benefit of the doubt, right? I wanted to be like, wait, nah, she's not going to steal from me. Like, she's just probably like making sure the key's in the right spot or something, right? Like, I was in denial. But then I see her step off the chair and I close my eyes, right? Because I like don't want her to see that I'm awake. And then like a second later, I like open them just a little bit. Like I squint them. So it still looks like I'm sleeping, but I can kind of see. And I can see that she's staring at me to make sure that I'm like still sleeping, right? And then she looks to her left where my safe is and she crouches down and starts opening it. And she proceeded to take the $2,000 cash out of my safe. I popped up and I was like, hey, what are you doing? And she looks at me like she just had a heart attack. She's like, oh, you're awake. And I was like, yeah. And I see what you're doing. What the hell? And she's like, I can explain. And she immediately puts my stuff back down in the safe. And I go, yeah, please do. I'd love to hear the explanation. And before she could even start talking, she just like breaks down and starts crying, right? And I just didn't know what to say. I'm just like sitting there. And she goes, like, my mom, she's really sick and she can't pay for treatment. And I didn't know what else to do. And I was like, what? Your mom's sick? What do you mean? And my girlfriend proceeds to start explaining that her mom has cancer and is essentially dying and doesn't have insurance to pay for it. So when my girlfriend found out that I had $2,000 laying around in my room, she thought it'd be a good idea to steal it to help pay for her mom's treatment. That's basically what she told me, right? And I was like sitting there in my head thinking like, okay, either she's lying about this, which would make her a even worse person than a thief, because it's one thing to be a thief, but to then try and justify that stealing by lying about someone having an incurable disease, that's like a whole new level of insane, right? So yeah, I was thinking like, okay, she's either lying, which would be really fucked up, or she's telling the truth, which, stealing from me is still not the move, but at least I would like kind of understand the reasoning, So yeah, I'm just sitting there trying to make sense of it all in my head. I'm thinking like, is she lying? Is she not? She's crying right in front of me. So like that seems genuine, but I don't know if she's crying just because she got caught or because she's sad about her mom, right? So I'm just sitting there in silence for like, 20 seconds or something. And she's like, are you going to say something? And I just told her the truth. I was like, listen, I have no idea what to think right now. So why don't you just go home? I'll talk to you tomorrow. And she's like, wait, you're kicking me out? And I was like, yeah, I just caught you opening my safe and stealing money from me, so like I don't really trust you right now. Yeah, I'll talk to you tomorrow. And she just grabs her stuff and she storms out. And I'm just left sitting there on my bed, like thinking about what just happened. And I'm not gonna lie, I was so tired and just so out of it, I just went back to sleep. I locked my bedroom door and went back to sleep. That was it, right? And the next morning I wake up and I had an idea. I was like, you know what? I'm going to find my girlfriend's mom on Facebook and then send her a message and talk to her and see if this whole story my girlfriend told me is true. So that's what I did. I went on my girlfriend's Facebook, went through her friends, found her mom, and then I messaged her on there. And I was like, hey, it's Austin. I'm dating your daughter. I think you've heard about me before. Can you call me? And I gave her my phone number. And within like 5 minutes of sending the message, my phone starts to ring from this random number. And I answer it. I'm like, hello. And she's like, hey, Austin, and she says her name. And I'm like, oh, hey. And it's my girlfriend's mom, right? And she goes, what's up? Like, I saw your message. Is everything okay? Like, is my daughter all good? And I was like, she's fine, completely fine. I just had something happen last night with her, and I need you to tell me the truth here. I caught her stealing from me, specifically trying to steal $2,000 in cash from me out of my safe, like red-handed. And she started breaking down and crying and said she was stealing it because you have cancer and that like you don't have insurance to pay for it. And she starts laughing. Like she laughs and she goes, what? And I was like, yeah, like, is that true? And she straight up goes, are you screwing with me right now, Austin? I was like, no, like, why would I screw with you? And she's like, my daughter tried to steal from you. And that's what she said. I was like, yep, I wish I was lying. I wish I was kidding. But that is 110% real. And she was in disbelief, just like I was when I saw it. And she proceeds to tell me that she has no disease, that she's actually extremely healthy, and has never had any kind of disease, and that she has insurance, so even if she was sick, she wouldn't need cash to pay for anything, and proceeded to apologize for her daughter's actions like 18 times, right? To which I was like, it's all good. It's not your fault. Like, don't worry about it. And she's like, no, like, I raised my daughter to be better than this. Like, I can't believe this. You seem like such a nice boy, and she's betraying you like that. And she was, like, on my side, which was honestly kind of nice because I feel like most parents in this situation would have been, like, you know, defending their kid because a lot of parents think their kids can do no wrong. So I thought that was going to be the situation, but she was actually very, very, like, on my side about it. And yeah, needless to say, I dumped my girlfriend like 10 minutes later. I called her and I was like, yep, just talk to your mom. You lied. And lying about your mom having a disease that serious is honestly like just as screwed up as stealing from me, in my opinion. So yeah, I don't trust you anymore. Have a good one. Bye. And we broke up. Now, I wish the story ended there, but I also found out after doing a quick room search that some other things were missing. So she had probably been stealing from me and putting stuff in her bag without me realizing for quite a while. Yeah, I found out that like a pair of shoes went missing that was worth like $500. One of my necklaces went missing that I like never wore, and a ring. And I actually was able to get all of those things back because I messaged her mom seeing if like her daughter had any of those things in her room or like in the house. And she sent me pictures back and they were there. So I got everything back that I knew was missing. There's honestly probably other stuff she got away with taking that like I just didn't realize was gone at that time. But yeah, man, I learned a valuable lesson. You can't trust everybody. And if you have a safe in your room full of valuable things, don't show people where the key is because I'm an idiot for that. But yeah, guys, moral of the story is don't be ignorant like I was, you know, be careful with who you trust, especially with information like a key to your safe that holds valuable things. But yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed this story time. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below. And subscribe if you're new. I will see you all later. Peace.
I was stepping out at 4 a.m. cause I couldn't take every thought up in my head and all the words from you snakes. Said I'm coming back for everything on my brother's grave. Keep on sending all those shots while I aim for the brain. Yeah, tell them what's up, now it's no debate. They were sleeping on me, now I got them too awake. Screaming fuck love, now it's
So this story time is quite the interesting one. I think you guys will definitely enjoy this. Yeah, I don't really know how else to start this other than just starting it. So I hope you enjoy the story. Leave a like on the video if you do, and let's get into it. So today's story time all takes place literally like a week after my 18th birthday. Now around this time, my life was pretty boring. I wasn't doing anything really besides making videos and streaming and the occasional hanging out with my friends and stuff. I was kind of in hermit mode, mainly for two reasons. One, I'd just gotten over a pretty like serious breakup, so I was kind of like depressed and just like not wanting to leave my room ever. You know, just real hermit mode. And then number two, around this time, a bunch of my friends were like, you know, going off to college and, you know, moving and stuff. So I didn't have that many friends in my hometown like I used to. That was until one day I decided, you know what, it's time to stop being a lazy, sad, you know, stick in the mud, just, you know, breadstick, and get out of the house and do something. So yeah, I texted one of my friends who did still live in my hometown and who wasn't super busy all the time. And I was like, yo, what's going on tonight? I'm bored. I'm kind of just like in the mood to get out and like get my mind off shit. What are you up to? And he was like, oh, bro, I'm going out to a club tonight with some friends. You should come. And I was like, which friends? And he names off all these people who I've never heard of before. Like just all people from like his neighborhood. He grew up like 40 minutes from me. So everyone from his area I didn't really know. And he was going to a club with all of them. And the club was like 25 minutes away. So immediately like my brain was telling me like, don't go. Don't do it. Like stay inside. This is too much. You're too anxious for this. Don't do it, right? But then I thought about it a little bit and I was like, bro, if I don't do it, I'm just going to spend another night doing nothing and just being in my head. So I may as well get out of the house, right? So I said, sure, I'll go. Why not? So yeah, next thing I know, I Ubered to my friend's house, met up with him there. A couple of his friends met us there. I got introduced to them. They were actually a lot cooler than I thought they'd be. And I wasn't regretting my decision. I was like, oh, this is actually a really good idea. I'm glad I did this, right? So after we all met at his house, we Ubered to the club, and then we met some other people at the club as well that were like meeting us there. And this club was actually a lot of fun. Usually I'm not like a club person because it's just so loud in there, you can't hear anything but the music. And I know that's kind of the point, but like if you do meet somebody there and you want to talk to them, you can't really talk to them unless you go outside. But this club was kind of different. Like it was loud in there, but it wasn't too loud. And everyone there was like pretty cool and just everything was going good, right? That's all I'm going to say. Everything was going great and I had no regrets yet. Well, about 2 hours after getting there, I was talking to this girl who was there. that was like a part of the group that my friend knew. He grew up with her, and I'm just getting to know her, and we're talking, and she asked me if I wanted to step outside and smoke with her. Now, around this time, I wasn't doing anything. I wasn't vaping, I wasn't smoking, I wasn't drinking. I just was like kind of in like straight edge mode. Main reason being was I just had a ton of anxiety around this time, and every time I would smoke or do anything, I'd just get panic attacks. So I was kind of avoiding it. But this girl was kind of cute, and she seemed interested in me, and I was definitely interested in her, and she seemed cool. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to say fuck my anxiety, and I'm going to smoke with her. So we went out to like the front patio area, and around this time, weed was still like pretty illegal in New York, so we had to like kind of keep it on the down low, but we shared a blunt, specifically a backwood. And let me just tell you, after taking such a long break from weed, and the first thing that I smoked coming back was a backwood, yo, that shit fucked me up. Like after we finished it, she was looking at me and she's like, holy shit, your eyes, dude. And I was like, what? And I opened my phone camera on Snapchat and I looked at him and it looked scary, dude. Like I looked like that meme. I was like, yo, holy shit. And I told her that I hadn't smoked for a while. And she was like, how long has it been? I was like, I don't know, like definitely over a few months. And she was like, holy shit, dude. Like, are you going to be okay? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm good. And honestly, even though I was very, 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 very fucked up, I wasn't like panicked or anxious or anything. I was just kind of out of it. At this point, all I wanted to do was like go get something to eat at the store across the street and like go home because that was the weed talking. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to power through. So after this, me and her went back into the club and we met back up with our friends. And like 5 or 10 minutes after meeting back up with them, they wanted to go outside now and smoke. So we ended up going back outside of the patio. And while we were out there, one of my buddies, the one that actually invited me to the club, he's looking at that store across the street. He's like, yo, I'm so hungry. I want to get something from there. And I was like, bro, you read my mind. I've been thinking the same thing. He's like, really? I'm down if you are. I'm like, dude, let's do it. So we told them that we'd come right back. We're just going to go to the store quick and grab a snack. And that's what we did. We started walking out of the patio. We left the club area, went over to the crosswalk to go and cross the street. And at this point, I'm in like autopilot mode, dude. Like, I'm looking around at the street lights. I'm just looking around, just completely just out of it. Way too high for my own good. I'm so happy my friend was there, because otherwise I probably would have like walked the wrong direction or something. But anyway, he hits the crosswalk button. The little walk light comes on. We start crossing the street, and I'm just staring at my feet, just like stoned, walking across the street, not paying attention. When all of a sudden, I hear my friend yell, Austin, watch out! And I see lights coming at my feet. And I look up to my right, and I see a car making a turn through the crosswalk, not stopping, coming right at me. And at this point, the car was so close that I couldn't really move out of the way in time. And the car was going pretty fast. And they slammed their brakes, but it was too late because they were taking the turn way too fast and they were not going to stop in time. And I kind of just accepted the fact that I was about to get ran over by a car. I remember as clear as day, like in my head, thinking, yep, I'm about to die. I got too stoned and now I'm about to get hit by a car and die. And like a couple milliseconds later, the car just hits me. And I actually got lucky, I think, because the way the car hit me, I went over the hood and not underneath it. So I rolled onto this hood and then rolled off the side of it. And at this point, the car stopped, like while I was on it. And I was able to land on my feet, right? Now, I'm not going to lie. That shit still fucking hurt. It hit me like right in the side of the legs. So like my legs hurt. And I thought I broke something, I can't lie. But I was able to walk and I wasn't in like excruciating pain. And immediately the dude gets out of the car who hit me and was like, yo, I'm so sorry. Like, but why were you crossing the street like that? And I was like, what? What the fuck are you talking about? And I point to the crosswalk and it still says I'm able to walk, right? I'm like, bro, you literally turned into the crosswalk and hit me. He's like, bro, I was allowed to take that turn. I was like, bro, no, you weren't. Like, you're supposed to wait till we're out of the crosswalk, then you can turn. He's like, well, I didn't see you. And I was like, okay, I see that because you ran me over. And this dude just like did not seem very sympathetic. Like my friend, on the other hand, he was freaking out. He was like, bro, are you okay? Like, you break something? Are you good? Are you like, you all right? And like, he was super worried. But anyway, after that guy argued with me about how he was supposedly allowed to take that turn and, you know, like I was the one in the wrong or whatever, he finally kind of came around and was like, do you want me to call the police? Like an ambulance? Are you okay? And, you know, in pretty much every situation like this, you're supposed to call the cops. We were definitely supposed to, and I probably should have. But the thought of me being that high and talking to the police and the paramedics and like going to the hospital or something, I was like, I'm good. And this guy's like, are you sure? Are you sure? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. He's like, you rolled over my hood pretty good. Like, are you sure you didn't break something? I'm like, no, I'm good. He goes, okay. Well, here, take my number. If you need anything, just call me. I'm like, okay. He's like, let me know if you go to the hospital. I was like, all right. So he gave me his number. He then drove off. We ended up going in the store. I bought some Doritos, some soda. I ate them, went back to the club, walked in, explained to our friends that I just got hit by a car, and none of them believed us, but after some convincing, they believed it. And honestly, the rest of that night was great. I had a really good time, got that girl's number, hung out with her some more after that. Everything was awesome. Now, I actually had a physical that week with my doctor anyway, so I brought that up to him at the physical. He was asking me like how my health had been, and I was like, oh, I got hit by a car like a week ago. He's like, what? You got hit by a car? And I had to explain to him what happened, and like he was just in disbelief that like I was so chill about it. But in the end, I was okay. There was nothing wrong with me. I didn't break any bones like I thought I did. My doctor even like, did an evaluation, made sure that I wasn't having any symptoms of a fracture or something. I actually had an x-ray on that leg like a few months later for an unrelated injury, and it was fine. So we're good. I will say though, moral of the story is, 1, always look up when you're crossing the street, because sometimes stupid drivers don't pay attention and you might need to be the one that needs to jump out of the way, even though it's their job to not hit you. Sometimes people are stupid. And rule number 2, don't get too high like my dumbass did, because I feel like if I wasn't that high, I wouldn't have been like staring at my feet like that and, like completely just zoned out, and I probably would have been paying more attention. But yeah, man, that is the story. I think it's a pretty good one, pretty funny one. I hope you guys got some, some entertainment out of this. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below, and subscribe if you're new. I will see you all later. Peace.
Know your place, have bitches, pull up on me, I got 2 switches, 20 gauge rounds, hit you up like it's nutrition, I've risen, everything came to fruition, stop the jealous talking on your girls, mine I might hit it, I heard my name is in your mouth, yeah I really doubt, you want me talking back cause I could really air it out, remember when I call your girlfriend.
Yo, what's good guys? It's Austin here, or Luna. So today's story time is unlike one that I've ever told on this channel before. It's definitely a crazy one. It's just all around wild. I hope you enjoy it. Leave a like on the video if you do. And yeah, man, let's just jump into it because, yeah, I don't know how else to start this. So today's story time all starts off back when I was 15 years old, man. Yeah, I was young in this story time. Now, I always hung around an older group of people, kind of unintentionally. I don't really know why. I always made friends that were like a year or 2 older than me. It's not like I was hanging out with 40-year-olds. That'd be creepy. But, when I was like 15, I usually would hang out with like 16, 17-year-olds that I knew. Just because, I don't know, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I'm so mature. Like, that's not what it was. I just, for some reason, always clicked with them harder than the people that were my age. I think a lot of the reason was like the people that I was friends with in my hometown that were like a year or 2 older than me had like more interests, like the same interests as me. For example, like skateboarding, I skated a lot from ages 15 to 17, and all the people I skated with were like a year or 2 older than me. That's kind of how I met a lot of these people. But yeah, back in the day when I was 15, I had friends that were my age, of course, because I went to school and stuff. But when I would hang out with people outside of school, it was typically like 16, 17-year-olds that I met skating. Now, the only problem I had with hanging out with people that were a year or 2 older than me is they were a little bit crazier than me. They were 16, 17, like, a little older, kind of had a little bit more like teenage attitude compared to like me. Don't get me wrong, I was definitely a little bit of a shithead at 15, but these kids were definitely crazier. So yeah, this all starts off like a normal day back then. It was summer vacation. I woke up at like 2:30 p.m. in the middle of the week, got ready for my day real slowly, took a nice long shower, ate some breakfast, and I had plans on this day to go to the skate park and meet up with 3 of my friends. And my mom already knew about it. She was cool with it, didn't have an issue with it. And yeah, I was excited, man. The skate park was always an amazing time, always a fun time. And I was stoked to go there and skate with my friends and enjoy the day, right? So upon arriving there, my mom dropped me off, and I met up with my friends at the park. And I was hanging out with 3 people in specific. We'll give them names. We'll call one of them Jared, we'll call another one Ricky, and we'll call the last one Josh. Now, for the most part, all 3 of them were relatively normal dudes. 2 of them were 16, one of them was 17. They all went to different schools. We all just met at the skate park. And there was one person in this group in specific who I would say was the most crazy. That would be Josh. Josh was that type of dude where if someone looked at him the wrong way or just did anything to disrespect him in the slightest, he would not let it slide. Sometimes that was a good thing, sometimes that was a bad thing. Because, you know, on one hand, if someone disrespected us, like our friend group, Josh would always be that dude at the front being like, yo, fuck you, show some respect. You know, he was really, really like a ride or die friend. He would always defend us. But on the other hand, it got us into some situations sometimes. And this situation I'm about to talk about is probably the craziest one. So anyway, back to the story. I get to the skate park. I'm skating with Ricky, Josh, Jared. We're all hanging out, having a good time. It started off like any other session. It was fun. And about an hour into it, the skate park kind of starts to die down. Usually on the weekdays at like, I don't know, between 5 and 7 p.m. it would start to die down a bit. And then sometimes it would pick back up during the nighttime because the park wouldn't close till 10. So I can't remember what time it was exactly, but I remember it was around dinner time. So probably between the hours of like 6 or 7, I'm guessing. And the park was pretty dead. It was just me, my friends, and then like one other group of people. And that was kind of cool because we had the whole park to ourselves, basically. It was pretty nice. But then later on, about an hour before the park closed, so at about like 9 p.m. I'd say, a bunch of dudes showed up. Like 2 cars full of people showed up, and they both knew each other, both cars. Like I remember when they pulled up right next to each other, and 4 people got out of each car, so 8 dudes in total, and they were all talking in a big group right before they came in. Now, I don't know why, but watching them talk in the parking lot from one of the ramps I was standing on, they just looked kind of like they were going to be a problem. Not because of the way they were dressed or the way that they looked or anything like that, right? It wasn't on appearance. It was just on the way they were talking. Like they were being really loud. One of them kept like pushing another one back and forth. They seemed like they were a little bit drunk, honestly. I don't know if they were, but it seemed like they were. And I remember me and all my friends at the top of the ramp just kind of looking at each other like, damn, bro, like these guys are loud. They're going to get in the way. I just know it. Well, about 5 minutes later, these 8 dudes enter the park. They come in and they start skating on the ramps. And for the first like 30 minutes or so, they're not really much of an issue. They were a little bit in the way. Like sometimes we'd go for a run and they'd get in the way on accident. But it wasn't like a problem or anything, right? Like that just happens sometimes. But then at about 40, 45 minutes in, something happened that kind of changed the way we felt towards each other, right? So Josh had this run he was about to do. He was going to drop in on the quarter pipe and then try and grind on one of the benches that was on the right side of the park. And one of the guys in that other group was over there by the bench. He was sitting on it. And Josh, nicely as ever, like he could not have asked this more nicely, he yells over to the guy, like, hey man, hate to be annoying, could you stand up real quick? I just want to go for a grind on that. Then you can sit back down, like, my bad. And this guy, like, rolls his eyes and gets up off the bench and, like, is essentially making a huge big deal of him having to move. Like, he was, like, upset about it. And, like, dude, it wasn't even, like, a normal bench. You were sitting on a bench that was meant to be skated. Like, he wasn't supposed to be sitting there. Like, there was bleachers on the side of the park for sitting, and that's where he could have sat. But he chose to sit on a place where it's supposed to be skated. So he was just in the way. Anyway, after he throws his little temper tantrum and he walks away, we thought we're good, right? So Josh starts going for this grind. He drops in off the quarter pipe. He starts skating towards it. And right as he's about to ollie off the pavement and go for the grind, this fucking dude, the one that was just sitting on the bench, grabs his board, like the board he was holding, and throws it at Josh's board while he's ollieing off the ground. And completely fucks the whole thing up, and Josh has to bail, and because Josh bailed and jumped off his board, he tripped over the bench. Like, he tried to land on the bench with his feet, but he, like, didn't land it correctly, so he tripped, and he ended up falling onto his right shoulder and kind of fucking it up. Like, he laid on the ground for a second and was, like, in pain. So naturally, us being friends, me, Ricky, Jared, we run over to him and check on him to see if he's okay. And while I'm checking on him and Ricky's checking on him, Jared runs over to the dude that threw the board, and he's like, what the fuck are you doing, man? Like, why the fuck would you do that? And this guy's just not saying shit, the guy that threw the board. He's just, like, crossing his arms, being dead quiet, not saying a thing. And Josh is just still on the ground, grabbing his shoulder. And I'm like, yo, are you okay? Are you okay? Like, you gonna be good? And he's like, yeah, I'll be fine, I'll be fine. Just give me a sec, give me a minute. And Josh lays on the ground for about 30 seconds, right? And just, like, regains his composure and, like, you know, gives his shoulder a second to breathe. And then, when that 30 seconds is up, I see Josh's face just completely turn. His face went from I'm in pain to I'm gonna inflict pain. And Josh proceeds to stand up, pick up his board off the ground, and then start walking towards this man that threw the board at him and made him fall. Now immediately everybody else in our group were like, oh shit, we gotta stop this. So we started running up to Josh and try to like grab the board from him, but he was too strong and too angry. He like pulled us away when we tried to grab it, and he winded back and proceeds to swing on this dude with his board. And this dude connects the board, like the trucks and the wheels, clean to the guy's face, like right to his cheek, to the side of the face, and he just smacks him with the board full force. And it sends this guy to the ground very quickly. And I remember after he did this and the guy fell on the ground and was just laying there, I genuinely thought, like, yo, that guy's dead. Like, he hit him so hard, and that guy is on the ground knocked out. Like, with how hard Josh hit him with the board, I genuinely thought this guy either died or had a serious, serious brain injury. And I remember after he does it, right, and the guy falls on the ground, me and all my friends just kind of look at each other with, like, this face of, like, yo, like, what do we do? And we're just staring at this guy on the ground as he's unconscious. And next thing I know, this guy's friends come running over, all of them, like 7 guys, right? And I'm kind of shitting myself because it's like, yo, there's 7 people running towards us, and Josh just knocked their friend out with a skateboard. So, like, they're going to try and hurt us, for sure, right? Well, guess what? They showed up, and they didn't try and fight us at all. They just, like, checked on the dude on the ground, and then they asked us what happened. And after that, one of our friends, Ricky, explained to them, like, he threw his board at Josh because Josh asked him to move, and then Josh hit him with the board to, like, retaliate, and now he's knocked out. So now everybody's kind of like together trying to wake this dude up because we're all freaked out, right? And after about 10, 20 seconds of trying to wake him up and him not waking up, one of them calls the cops, like an ambulance. And after the dude gets on the phone with 911, he tells the operator that their friend took a bad fall at the skate park. He didn't say that he was hit by one of the other park goers, which kind of confused me because it's like, why wouldn't they just tell the truth? If I had to guess, maybe they were like, afraid of having to fill out paperwork with the police or something. I don't know, right? Like maybe they didn't want to talk to cops. I don't know. But for some reason, they did not tell on Josh, which is kind of crazy. And while he's on the phone with 911 calling an ambulance, this dude starts to wake up, to which all of us were super relieved because we didn't want this guy to die, obviously. Like, yeah, what he did was a dick move, but I think, Josh slapping him across the face with a skateboard was already too much. Anyway, the guy wakes up. And naturally, he's very confused because he just got whacked in the face with a skateboard and probably hit the side of his head with it and, probably had a crazy concussion. But he was conscious and he was answering questions. For example, he knew his name, he knew the date, he knew, like, who the president was. We were asking him all these questions, right? And he looked at Josh, and I think he remembered what just happened because he looked at Josh, and at first his face was, like, kind of confused. But then his face changed into, like, fear of, like, oh, this is the dude that just knocked me out. And yeah, his face looked real, like, fearful. But anyway, about 5-10 minutes later, the ambulance pulls up and the paramedics kind of start evaluating him, asking him questions and stuff, checking his vitals. And this guy ends up refusing to go to the hospital. Like, they're trying to take him, right? He's like, I don't want to go. And they're like, you took a pretty hard blow to the head. You should probably come to the hospital. Like, you could have a traumatic brain injury. You probably should go. And he's like, I don't need it. I feel fine. I'm good. Just let me, like, sleep it off. And they were like, that's a really bad idea. And he just didn't care. He kept refusing. And after he refused a bunch of times, the paramedics were like, all right, well, we can't really force you to go. So if you want to stay here, you can stay here. But we really recommend you go to the hospital. He didn't care. He refused again. So yeah, the paramedics finished up. They did all they could do at the park, checked his vitals, stuff like that. Made sure he wasn't, like, actively dying. But, I think he definitely needed a lot more tests. I think he needed a brain scan. But he didn't do it. He didn't go to the hospital, and they left. Now, shortly after the paramedics left, all of the dudes got in their cars and they dipped, including the guy that got smacked in the face with the board. And I remember standing there just thinking, like, yo, how did this unfold the way it did? From the guy getting hit in the face with the board, to the paramedics showing up, to the fact that those guys didn't, like, fight us over it. That was the part that surprised me the most. Like, the fact that those, 7 guys didn't, like, try and jump all of us because Josh hurt their friend, My thought is, like, this is just an assumption, it's not fact. My thought was that maybe all those dudes in that group just knew how crazy their friend was, and they just didn't want to get into a fight over him because he does this a lot. Maybe he, like, gets into trouble all the time, and, like, they're just not willing to fight over it. I don't know. But anyway, I thought I would never see those guys again, or at least that guy, the one that got, hit with the board. But literally a week later, I was at that same park with Ricky, just Ricky, and that guy was there, skating by himself. Just back on the board, like nothing happened, skating like nothing was wrong, which is crazy. And he actually came up to us at the park. He's like, hey guys, how you guys been? And at first I was like, yo, did Josh hit him so hard with the skateboard that, like, he forgot who we were or something? But nah, he knew who we were. After we said hi back, he was like, I've been healing up well. Your boy hit me pretty hard. He ended up telling us that he had to go to the dentist like 2 days later because a tooth was loose and he had to get it pulled, which is crazy. So Josh knocked a tooth out, but he never went to the hospital or the doctor and got like a brain scan. I think he should have, but we saw him at that park for the next like 2 years and he was fine every time we saw him. So I guess he was all good. I just can't believe this unfolded the way that it did. I really can't. Like, it could have been so much worse. I mean, it already was pretty bad, but like those dudes could have jumped us. That dude could have gotten way more hurt. Josh could have went to jail for doing that. All around, I think everybody in this situation got very lucky in the end. And that's just the biggest factor at play here was luck. And you won't always be that lucky. So the moral of the story is don't do what anybody did in this story time. Yeah. But yeah, guys, that's pretty much the end of the story time. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like on the video. I'd really appreciate it. Feel free to leave your story times in the comments down below. And subscribe if you're new. I will see you guys later. Peace.
Fully loaded, I be whipping foreign cars.